Hey everybody, it is day number 23 of 366 days. I am Alan Thomas and I'm with Rethink Dieting, and it is part of Transform My Future. And for those of you that don't know my story, I tell it every night. In 2017, I reached 304 pounds on the scale. And if you go to Transform My Future and look at some of the pictures in there, you'll see a picture of that actual scale that I was there that day. And people say, well, why would you take a picture of your scale? Well, when I stood on the scale that morning, I thought I was going to see maybe 295 on it if I was really fortunate, or maybe 299, but definitely not 300 or 304. And it really was a surreal moment. I mean, standing there in the dark, it was early in the morning. I got up and weighed, and I didn't weigh often. At 304 pounds, I really didn't enjoy weighing very much. And I stood on the scale and I realized that I'd never met a man that was more than 100 pounds overweight. I am, and I was 5'11", and I was 55 years old at the time, and I'd never met a man that was that overweight at age 65. And I was actually in the life insurance business to senior citizens. I sold burial insurance to seniors, and that means people over 65, and had met with thousands and thousands of people, and I could not remember at that moment one man that I'd met that was 100 pounds or more overweight at age 65. Now, there's probably lots of them out there. I've just never met them. They're not lots, they're very few, because typically they're not alive at that point. And I knew that I would have, really, if I didn't do something about it, while I didn't have any real big health issues at the time, I knew they were coming like a freight train. And I realized that I would be dead in less than 10 years, probably less than 5 years. And it really sent me on a journey where I publicly committed to losing weight. I lost 129 pounds in 260 days. I had been on diet after diet after diet and failed on multitudes. Literally, gosh, 5 dozen, 6 dozen, 7 dozen diets. I lost count, and most of them that failed on them multiple times. I mean, all the name diets I've been on more than once because maybe it's this time, maybe it's this time. And the problem that it was I was never really, it was never really the diet. I always knew what to do. It was always about the decision and taking action on that decision. And so that's what really led me on that path. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, nutritionist, physical fitness expert. I say it every night. I'm just a guy that found my way through the wilderness of obesity, and I reached the other side. And now I help individuals reach their ideal weight. But it's not really about the weight. It is about the weight. You got to get the weight off, but it's really about, am I able to reach, am I able to become that person that I've always wanted to be? And my weight has held me back from it. And it's just really something that is dramatic, and it changes our lives when we allow the weight to continue to chip away at who we are, and as we gain pounds. And I was thinking this afternoon, you get all these emails and stuff, and that your limits increased and on your lines of credit, which is really a cool thing. I mean, that's a nice thing that the bank wants to give me more money. But how many times did I increase the limit that I was willing to let my weight go to? I mean, when I was, 220 pounds, I wasn't morbidly obese. I was overweight, but I wasn't that bad. I would compare myself to people that were bigger, and I would increase my limit. I would allow myself to go to 225, 229. I'd go on a diet and I'd lose 5 or 10 pounds, and then I'd go to 230, 235. It wouldn't be quickly. It would be slowly. I mean, almost like a bank would give you more money as your business grows or as your credit gets better. And are they really doing you a favor? I mean, call and ask Dave Ramsey. I mean, he'll talk to you about getting, those limit increases that are not always a good thing. Sometimes they are. Sure, there's a lot of different schools of thought on that. But when you're talking about weight, increasing your limit. Now, for somebody who's at their ideal weight, and they're building a bunch of muscle and getting ready for, like my client Matt Woodrum, who's training for American Ninja Warrior. Well, he's building muscle right now, so he's actually putting some weight back on. He's needing to. How cool is that? He lost a bunch of weight. I think 90 pounds or so. And 95 pounds, and now he's putting some muscle on in the journey, and so his goals have changed. So he's increased his limit for the right reason. But most of us are not increasing our limit for the right reason. We're increasing our limit because we want that other bite. And that other bite translates to comfort. And it translates to something because we don't want to face something that's tough. We don't want to have to be, to do what's necessary to get the weight off. So we keep thinking that maybe there's a diet that'll save me. Maybe there's an exercise plan that'll save me. And it's almost like trying to get out of credit card debt by borrowing more money. It just doesn't work that way. You can't get out of debt by borrowing more money. You can't reach your ideal weight by looking for a magical diet. It just doesn't work. I mean, do the diets work? Yeah, to a certain degree, but it's never been my experience that people who struggle with their weight, they always know what to eat. I mean, I did. I have not run into one individual that didn't really know what to do deep down. And so what is the problem? Well, it's the thinking. It's who are you allowing yourself to become? Are you allowing yourself to become the person who increases their limits so they feel a little bit better while they swallow the next bite of brownies, like I did, or the next bag of potato chips? Because the serving size for me was always a bag, regardless of the size. And a serving size for ice cream was a half gallon. It wasn't in one bite. It was in multiple bowls, and I could clean those things out. And I wouldn't do it where people would see. I would do it where they wouldn't see. I was hidden. Just like when somebody is getting their limit increased, that you're doing it so they can go out and buy a bunch of clothes or do something that's really not an investment. They're just spending money, or maybe going out to dinner a bunch, and they're increasing their limit, and they kind of do it secretly, and then before they know it, they're in bankruptcy. And when's your body going to go into bankruptcy because you've increased your limit again on what you allow yourself to be on the scale? I did it over and over, and at 304 pounds, man, I was insolvent. I hadn't had a heart attack or stroke or any kind of obesity-related illness to speak of. But I was there, and it was really at that time that I had to take just extreme action. And so it was always possible for me to lose weight. It's just like standing at the banks of the Red Sea. The Israelites had an 11-day walk to the Promised Land, if you go back and look in the book of Exodus and do the map. But they took 40 years. I was taking 40 years because I was dying a death of 1,000 cuts. And I was allowing myself to live in the shame and the embarrassment of being morbidly obese. And that's a real term. It means I was over 40 BMI. And people would think I was big bone, but I knew I wasn't. They would think, "Oh, you don't look that fat," but I did. They would compensate for, "Oh, sit in this chair over here because that one's not wide enough for you." They wouldn't say that, but they knew it was true, and they could see that my size was there. But when everything was said and done, I always had the power between my ears, and I learned that process by just a lot of trial and error. People say, "Well, how do you know what to do?" I said, "Well, gosh, I failed so many times. I had to figure a few things out along the way." And so be encouraged. I'm not saying all these things to discourage you as you think about, how do you get to your ideal weight? What I'm saying to you is continue to move forward. You can reach your ideal weight. It is possible. I see people doing it every day. Be encouraged, and when you don't give up, don't stop along the way, because it's a journey of 1,000 cuts if you do that. Instead, take the action, make the decision, and move forward. But if you're stuck and you don't know what to do, reach out to me, transformmyfuture.com/apply, and schedule a free breakthrough session with me. We'll map out a plan to get you to your ideal weight. Again, I'm not a doctor or nutritionist, dietitian, or physical fitness expert. I'm just a guy who failed miserably and found the way through the wilderness of obesity, and that's what I help people get through now, because there's always a vein of gold running underneath that weight that they find, and it's the most amazing thing when they see it. And it usually doesn't have anything to do with their weight. It was just always holding them back from something far, far greater. So guys, Check us out at rethinkdieting.com, where I have a free masterclass training that you can watch. Get a lot of this, the 5-step strategy I use to lose lose 129 pounds in 260 days, and keep pressing post as you press forward. And we'll see you tomorrow night.